I stepped off the broad street line just as the final car doors hissed closed behind me, the rumble of steel wheels fading into the night air. My phone buzzed against my thigh, a trill I'd come to dread. I fumbled it from my pocket as I walked toward the festival grounds, where stray guitar chords still echoed off the brick warehouses. An unknown Philadelphia number lit the screen. "You need to see this." My pulse spiked. The damp breeze carried the acrid tang of cigarette smoke from a nearby alley, mingling with the faint sweetness of late summer blooms. I parked myself against a graffiti-tagged wall and tapped the notification. A single photo loaded, filling the display. Jennifer, her hair swept back from her face, seated on a folding chair behind the stage, leaning close to Mark, the showroom's art director. Their heads bent in shared laughter, his hand hovered near hers on the guitar's fretboard. Between them on a small crate sat 2 half-empty mugs of tea and a battered ashtray, its rim crusted with gray ash. I tasted bitterness sharper than any cold coffee ever brewed. Fingers trembling, I retrieved the brass metronome from my jacket pocket, our wedding keepsake, its faithful tick once a comfort. I flicked it open, its wooden pendulum swung in measured arcs. "Mark these beats," it seemed to say. Tonight, they counted off a different rhythm. My vision narrowed as I studied the image. Jennifer's cardigan, spattered with paint from our weekend tile project, hung loose around her shoulders, and Mark's tailored jacket caught the string-light gleam. Their proximity spoke louder than any spoken word. I remembered her promise, just rehearsals and logistics. Instead, she was weaving secrets in the twilight hours. A SEPTA bus rumbled past, its brakes sighing on the wet pavement. I closed my eyes, pressing the metronome's smooth side to my palm, and inhaled deeply through my nose, exhaust, smoke, and the faint tang of beer from an earlier alley jam session. My grandmother's voice echoed in my head, "Steady, John." I opened my eyes and exhaled through clenched teeth. Swiping back, I tapped "Save" on the photo. It landed in my gallery like a stone in a pond, its ripples already distorting every memory I had. I slid the phone into my pocket and leaned my forehead against the cool brick, tasting resolve where shock had momentarily reigned. My wedding ring felt suddenly cold and cumbersome, a circle now empty of promise. I reached for the metronome again and popped open its top. The pendulum's click-click-click filled my ears, a metronome now marking not music but time measured in lies. I set it on the wall's ledge to catch the glow of a nearby street lamp. Its steady beat undercut the murmur of distant traffic, a reminder that moments lost would not replace themselves. I straightened and retrieved the chipped ceramic mug of cold tea I'd left on a barrel by the stage, my nervous habit of cleaning my hands between scenes. I dumped the tea onto the gravel, its splash ringing sharply. No tears. No outburst. Only cold action. Under the hum of the venue's idle amps, I outlined my next moves, capture every timestamp, catalog each anomaly, preserve every scrap of proof. First step, check our shared bank app for Rhythm and Brew cafe charges after 8 p.m. Then review her messages for Whispersoft exchanges. No public confrontation. Just methodical gathering of truth. I slipped the metronome into my pocket, its ticking now a heartbeat of purpose, and stepped away from the wall. The festival lights flickered across puddles, and the chords of an abandoned amp quieted behind me. My reflection in the stage's black piano keys looked taut, determined. As I walked into the night toward home, toward the life she had fractured, I whispered to the rhythm in my pocket, "Time's up." And with that, I began. That night, the soft tick of my metronome haunted the darkness. I lay awake in the quiet hum of our master suite, tracing its smooth brass casing with a trembling finger. In its steady rhythm, I heard echoes of every unguarded moment I'd shared with Jennifer, the first tremors of doubt now demanding scrutiny. Our life together had been everything I once believed in. I remembered our first date at a Rittenhouse Square bistro, jack-o'-lantern lights strung between trees, the scent of roasted garlic swirling as she laughed when I mispronounced tapenade. We'd toasted with Pinot Gris under a pale October moon, promising adventures in every corner of Philadelphia. Weekends became our workshop. Saturday mornings, we'd haul paint cans and plywood into the sunlit guest room, renewing its walls with fresh color. I'd measure and cut, she'd roll with an artist's precision. When the last brushstroke dried, we'd collapse onto the floor, breathless with triumph, and share a single slice of stale pizza we deemed refined. Those Saturdays felt like proof that partnership could build anything. Evenings, after our daughter's bedtime, were sacred. Jennifer would light beeswax candles on the mantel, and I'd pour us chamomile tea. We'd unfold our yoga mats, guide each other through gentle poses, and laugh when balance betrayed us. Her hand at my small of my back steadied both my posture and my heart. I believed those rituals unbreakable. But amid those memories, small missteps began to emerge, warnings I dismissed as coincidences. It started with her phone's glow well after midnight. I'd roll over, blink against the clock's red digits, 12:17 a.m., and see her screen pulse with a notification. If I asked, she'd murmur, just confirming scheduled details for the festival. I'd nod, letting her tired smile convince me. Then came the bank alerts. One afternoon, I logged into our joint account and noted a $12.50 charge at Rhythm and Brew Cafe at 8:22 p.m. Jennifer rarely drank coffee after sundown. When I mentioned it, she smiled and said they'd extended rehearsals and she'd grabbed a pick-me-up. I accepted it, oblivious to deeper notes beneath her tone. At our daughter's Little Movers recital, I spotted Mark, tall, lanky, guitar case in tow, lingering at the back exit. After the curtain fell, Jennifer and he exchanged quick words by the fire exit. Their heads dipped close. I saw her laugh quietly at something he said. When I approached, Mark straightened. Just sharing stage notes, he told me, smooth as a chord progression. Jennifer gripped my arm and steered us toward our daughter's encore bow. I forced a smile, though a knot twisted in my gut. I began to notice her jacket's faint scent of guitar polish and something smokier, pipe tobacco, perhaps. Once, I found specks of ash on her scarf after she hugged me goodbye. Beneath her lavender perfume, that trace of smoke lingered. When I asked, she laughed it off. We had a bonfire after rehearsal. I nodded, though unease crept in. Determined to see clearly, I borrowed her tablet one morning. She left it unlocked on the kitchen counter. Under the Notes app, I discovered a hidden folder labeled Midnight Musings. Curious, I tapped it open and found a chat thread between Jennifer and Mark. Mark, your voice reading that poem felt like a heartbeat. Jennifer, I've never felt words so alive. Mark, meet me by the river at dawn. My breath caught. I scrolled back to the first message dated May 20th. Thanks for tuning my guitar, your fingers lingered. That fleeting touch, now a confession in text, tightened around my pulse. Hand steady, I screenshot each exchange, then cleared the thread. In the adjacent gallery app, I found images of Jennifer and Mark intertwined, guitar necks aligned, their faces soft in twilight. I printed the photos, along with the cafe receipts and bank statements, and stapled them together. On the kitchen table, I arranged the evidence around our wedding portrait, me in a dinner jacket, Jennifer in lace, our smiles bright beneath an arch of magnolias. I turned that frame face down, hiding our promise in the shadow of betrayal. Late that night, I sat at the table under the dull glow of the island light. My metronome ticked beside me like a heartbeat. I opened my notebook, its first page labeled Next Steps, and wrote. 1. Consult attorney. 2. Backup messages and receipts. 3. Install home surveillance. 4. Plan financial consultation. I crossed out step 0, trust without evidence. The words felt both cold and liberating. As I closed the notebook, I whispered to the silent metronome, tomorrow, we begin. And in that measured vow, the tremors of suspicion coalesced into a blueprint of resolve, each tick guiding me toward the justice our family deserved. Dawn came quietly to Philadelphia, the streets misted and still as I sat at our kitchen table surrounded by evidence, the printed photos of Jennifer and Mark entwined over guitar chords, laminated cafe receipts, and chat screenshots inscribed with midnight confessions. Beside them, the brass metronome ticked in measured arcs, once a vessel of harmony, now Exhibit A in my unfolding case. I poured myself black coffee, its bitterness a grounding tonic, and began the transformation from shocked husband to deliberate architect of justice. Retaining legal counsel. By mid-morning, I found myself in the sleek lobby of Appleton and Pierce Family Law. My privileged evidence binder felt reassuring in my hands, its spine bulging with tabbed exhibits. Exhibit A, the brass metronome, its pendulum still marking stolen seconds. Exhibit B, cafe photographs from June 14, 8:22 p.m., showing Jennifer and Mark's clandestine jam session. Exhibit C, rideshare receipts for Rhythm and Brew Cafe, at 8:15 p.m. and 9:03 p.m., billed to our joint account. Exhibit D, Midnight Musings, chat screenshots, lines like, your riff reads like my confession. Exhibit E, coffee ground and ash specks scraped from Jennifer's yoga mat. Attorney Caroline Pierce greeted me with a firm handshake and led me into her paneled office. I laid out each exhibit, carefully, methodically. As she reviewed them, I watched her brow smooth with professional approval. "These are compelling," she said. "Under attorney-client privilege, we'll draft petitions for temporary custody and child support, file motions to freeze joint accounts, and seek a domestic relations order to protect your home equity. Given the clarity of your evidence, we can request an expedited hearing." She outlined our timeline. Today, sign engagement letter, finalize exhibit list. By Friday, file emergency motions. Within 7 days, serve Jennifer and schedule a preliminary hearing. As I signed the retainer, the tremor of betrayal receded, replaced by the steady rhythm of purpose. Assembling my support network. That afternoon, I called my brother, Sam, the tech whiz who wired our childhood treehouse. Over cheesesteak sandwiches at our favorite South Philly deli, I slid him the floor plans for our row house. "I need 2 discrete cameras," I said. "One covering the front stoop, another overlooking our living room. Time-stamped, motion-activated, night vision." Sam's eyes lit up. "Got it. I'll drop by tonight with the microcams and a DVR hidden in your study." Later, I met my oldest friend, Dr. Natalie Chen, a psychologist, for tea at Rittenhouse's Botanical Cafe. Between sips of jasmine, I described the behavioral patterns I'd observed: Jennifer's nervous laughter when I called, Mark's lingering touch during those rehearsals. "Place an audio recorder in communal spaces," Natalie advised. "Living room, kitchen, areas where she has no expectation of privacy. Then, when you confront her, ask neutral questions. What did you and Mark discuss at 8:22 p.m.? Their own responses will be your strongest evidence." Armed with Sam's technical prowess and Natalie's psychological insight, my plan found both hardware and strategy. Preserving and cataloging evidence. By Saturday at first light, Sam arrived with microcams concealed in picture frames and a sleek DVR. In tandem, we installed one camera above the front door, its lens masked by a carved corbel, and another atop the living room bookshelf. He ran cables through the attic and connected them to a discrete hard drive beneath my desk. We tested the feeds, crisp black and white video with timestamp overlays. I placed a small digital voice recorder inside a hollowed ceramic vase on the mantel and whispered, "Test audio." Its playback crackled perfectly. The house had become a silent witness. Back in my study, I transferred Jennifer's phone logs, texts, deleted chats, call histories, to an encrypted external drive. Using a spreadsheet, I cataloged each item with columns for date collected, type, source, and location: binder, drive, DVR. Every exhibit had its place. Date collected. Type. Source. Location. June 14, 2025. Photo. Cafe photo. Binder B2. June 14, 2025. Receipt. Rideshare app. Binder B3. June 14, 2025. Chat screenshot. Tablet, Midnight Musings. Binder B4. June 12, 2025. Ash sampling. Yoga mat. Binder B5. June 10, 2025. Audio recording. Living room recorder. DVR channel 1. I then locked the binder, the metronome, and 2 USB drives, each labeled audio and video, in a small safe bolted beneath my desk. Each click of the lock felt like fortifying the truth. Drafting and notarizing proposals. Monday morning, I met our neighbor Jenna, licensed notary, in her sunlit living room. I presented her with 2 sealed documents drafted by Caroline. 1 custody and visitation proposal. Joint legal custody, ensuring shared decisions. Primary physical custody with me, Jennifer granted alternating weekend visitation. Temporary child support per Pennsylvania guidelines. 2 asset division spreadsheet. Condo equity freeze, with Jennifer's share in escrow. Retirement and brokerage account balances as of filing date. Workshop tools and music gear assigned to me, her art collection and festival supplies to her. Jenna stamped each page with her seal, embossing our intentions into enforceable instruments. As I tucked the envelopes into my portfolio, a sense of quiet authority settled around me. Financial planning and valuation. That afternoon, I met CPA Marcus Keller at his Center City office. I handed him the asset division spreadsheet and joint bank statements. He ran valuation scenarios. Condo appraisal, current market value, options for refinance and buyout. Retirement funds, tax consequences of segregating 401k and IRA accounts. Joint savings, freeze with escrow for our daughter's expenses. Marcus delivered a concise report, with cash flow projections and tax strategies, and emailed it directly to Caroline. With our finances locked down, one more pillar of my life stood firm. Preparing for the hearing. By Wednesday, my study had become command central, camera feeds on one monitor, a corkboard of timelines pinned to the wall, and the half-assembled music box humming softly on the bench, a silent reminder of the project I'd paused in shock. I rehearsed my opening statement aloud. On June 14 at 8:22 p.m., Exhibit B, surveillance footage, records Ms. Carlton entering the cafe with Mr. Reynolds, contrary to her representation that she was home. Exhibit C, rideshare logs, confirm her departures. Exhibit D, text logs, reveal intimate exchanges. Each rehearsal steadied my voice. The metronome in my pocket ticked in time with my confidence, replacing grief's tremor with authority. That evening, Caroline emailed the hearing date, July 20th at 9 a.m., with a July 13th deadline for final exhibits. I double-checked each seal, backed up every file, and crossed off every task. The chaos of betrayal had been harnessed into a precise, unyielding pursuit of justice. In under a week, I had transformed from a man adrift in shock to one anchored by methodical resolve. Every camera installed, each notarized document, each financial scenario plotted fortified my path forward. The brass metronome, once a symbol of our shared rhythm, had become the pulse of my systematic reclamation of time and trust. I arrived at Appleton and Pierce's conference room at 9 a.m. on the dot, carrying two talismans of this ordeal, the brass metronome, Exhibit A, resting in its velvet pouch, and our framed wedding photograph. My wife, Jennifer, sat across from me, her attorney to her right. Between us on the gleaming oak table stood a small, spotless ashtray, Exhibit B, and the metronome's pendulum, silent for now. Attorney Caroline Pierce opened her binder. We'll review Exhibits A through D, then discuss settlement proposals. She clicked the remote, the monitor flickered to life with the first slide. Exhibit A, the grainy nighttime photograph, June 14 at 8:22 p.m., showing Jennifer and Mark hunched over a guitar at the festival's back alley, their forearms brushing. Two chipped mugs and that ashtray burdened with fresh gray ash sat at their feet. Jennifer's cheeks had glowed in the lamplight, now, her complexion drained. Pierce advanced to Exhibit B, the rideshare logs, 6 pickups at 8:15 and 9:03 p.m., all charged to our joint account. I slid printed receipts across to Jennifer. These confirm your departures, I said quietly, meeting her eyes. You told me rehearsals ended earlier. Her attorney flipped through the pages, then paused. I reached forward and picked up the wedding photo. This, I said, placing it before Jennifer, was taken on our wedding day, our vow captured in light. I tapped the frame's silver edge. That promise was entrusted to you. I set the photograph on Jennifer's side of the table, then tapped the ashtray. Pierce clicked to Exhibit C, bank statements showing repeated, Rhythm and Brew Cafe, charges in the evenings. I leaned forward. You said those runs were for vendor meetings, I said. Yet none coincide with any club gatherings. Jennifer swallowed, her gaze fixed on the tabletop. Pierce moved to Exhibit D, the printed, Midnight Musings, chat, lines like, your fingers on that fretboard feel like confession, and, I ache for our late-night chords. Each message scrolled across the screen, a digital testament to clandestine passion. Jennifer's shoulders shook. I reached into my velvet pouch and lifted the metronome. This metronome marked every beat of music we shared, I said softly, setting it in front of Jennifer. Tonight, it marks the time you answer for the moments you stole. Pierce slid the settlement sheet into view, joint legal custody, primary physical custody with me, equitable property division, and structured visitation. Based on these facts, she said, Mr. Carlton's proposal is both fair and enforceable. She pushed the agreement across the table. Jennifer's hand trembled as she reached for the silver pen I'd placed beside the metronome. Once that pen signed our mortgage and our daughter's birth certificate, today, it sealed her accountability. She exhaled, closed her eyes, and signed. I followed, my signature precise, each curve deliberate. Piers stamped the documents. The soft thud sounded like a gavel, final, unambiguous. No tears from me, only the quiet click of pen on paper. We rose. I offered Jennifer a brief nod, a gesture acknowledging the truth laid bare, devoid of triumph or scorn. As I gathered my metronome and photograph, I felt a calm permanence settle over me. The city outside continued its urgent rhythm, but within those walls, time had snapped into order. Betrayal's discord had been met with the unwavering tempo of justice, and from its measured beat, I would now compose the next movement of my life. 2 weeks after the conference room signing, I sat at our dining room table reading the judge's final decree. Its pages affirmed joint legal custody, granted me primary physical custody of our daughter, and laid out a clear visitation schedule for Jennifer, every other weekend and alternating major holidays. Our Philadelphia row house remained mine, with her share held in escrow, retirement and brokerage accounts were split equitably. Child and spousal support would deposit automatically each month, ensuring our daughter's needs were never in doubt. I set the decree beside the brass metronome, now engraved on its base with time reclaimed, and exhaled a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. On the mantel, I placed 3 symbols of our journey: the wedding photograph, again face up, the now scrubbed ashtray, its residue preserved in my safe, and the metronome, ticking steadily in its new role as Exhibit A. Each spoke of promise, accountability, and renewal. That afternoon, I returned to my workshop for the first time in weeks. The half-assembled music box I'd abandoned waited on the bench. I carefully removed the metronome's pendulum and set it aside. Then, with chisels and fine-grained sandpaper, I transformed the fallen pendulum into a keepsake latch for the box's lid. On its underside, I engraved, "Moments Mended." As wood shavings gathered at my feet, I felt old pain give way to new purpose. When I snapped the latch closed, the metronome's essence lay nestled inside, a heartbeat of hope reclaimed rather than time lost. Saturday evening, I hosted a small backyard gathering for my brother, Sam, Dr. Natalie Chen, and my father, those steadfast allies who had guided me through every phase. Under string lights, we grilled kebabs and laughed over childhood pranks. Our daughter darted among us, her laughter bright as any melody. When she presented me with a smooth river stone she'd found along the Schuylkill, I invited her to place it inside the music box as the first treasure. For good moments, she declared, her smile a testament to resilience. Sunday dawned gentle over the skyline. I launched my blog, still in time, with a post titled, "Blueprints for Rebuilding." I outlined the exact steps I'd taken, observing without panic, preserving every scrap of evidence, consulting trusted counsel, and transforming betrayal into a structured campaign for justice. I shared the story of the metronome's transformation, inviting readers to turn their own symbols of hurt into vessels of hope. Within hours, messages arrived: "Your calm map saved me, thank you for showing strength through structure, I'm finding my footing." A community formed around shared determination rather than shared despair. That evening, I laced up my running shoes and took our daughter to the Schuylkill River Trail. We jogged under a sky turning rose gold. With each stride, the metronome's soft tick echoed my heartbeat, steady, deliberate, unwavering. When she turned to grin at me, breathless with joy, I waved and whispered, "Let's keep going, kiddo." Back home, I placed the music box, the final decree, and the wedding photo side by side on my nightstand, 3 markers of promise, judgment, and renewal. In their silent company, I felt no trace of bitterness, only the steady pulse of inner peace and the conviction that, moving forward, each second would be mine to shape. And as the metronome ticked on into the quiet of night, I knew that time, and trust, could not only be measured, but also mended.